Hey, everybody. We're live, even without the rich one. Yes, we are. Ladies and gentlemen, I am. Welcome to Gordok's Pub. It looks a little different because it's just my giant fat head tonight. Waiting on Rich. He said he was going to be here at 9. He's running late. I have no idea if he'll actually be on time, but he had everything else set up, so I'm assuming that he'll be here. If not, I apologize for wasting everybody's time because I am not going to be drawing on string tonight. I'm sorry. As much as I use to draw and paint and whatnot, I don't think that's ready for public consumption. So, keep that to ourselves. Lord. That down a little bit as we wait for Rich. So, fun news. I think we have the first 3 pages of a script done. And I sent that over to Rich today. We'll see how that works. Definitely a new... oh, there he is. There's the man himself. The man, the myth, the legend. Get him back on screen.
I don't know what he is. He's here.
He's here.
That's what I got to say.
Well.
Late start to the day, late getting to the hospital, and my son's still in the hospital. So, but this episode in particular is dedicated to him because he was determined that I stream tonight. Even from the hospital bed, with him not even able to keep his eyes open for long enough to talk to me, he was telling me I need to stream.
Wow. That's rough. So, they have any idea what's going on with them?
Well, HIPAA prevents me from giving specifics.
That's fine, then. I don't need specifics.
And I'm actually, he's literally an adult, even though he's always going to be my kid, my boy.
Okay.
He's really a permanent child, but he's physically an adult. So, I don't have guardianship of him. His mother does. Even though I'm still his dad and we all still live as a family, she's the one that's technically responsible for him and is the one that's permitted to talk about anything that's legal to talk about. So, despite that, I'm going to give you vagaries because that's what I got.
That's fine.
They have not determined anything yet. They have ruled out some things, is what they've done. It's been really rough because not only do they not know what's going on, we don't know what's going on.
Right.
His mother is pretty much camped out at the hospital with him. You know, as a good mother should. I'd say as a good father should too, but there's no room for a good father and a good mother. There's only one place to sleep. And somebody's got to feed the cat.
Do they really have to feed the cat?
Well, yeah. It's technically Eli's cat.
All right.
Am I fond of the cat? Not particularly. I don't hate any animal really, but I'm not fond of cats particularly.
Cats, I think they cause more trouble than dogs do.
Well, I guess I think dogs are more personable about the trouble that they cause because they do it in a playful manner and not like you can't stop me manner. Like the cat will look directly at me and claw some shit, and I really want to smack him right in the head when he does because I'm telling him not to claw shit while he's clawing shit. Like, oh, you don't think I can move fast enough, but I can throw some shit.
Yeah, we've got 2 cats and a dog. And the dog is always more upfront work. Like, you got to put the dog out. You don't have to put the cats out. But the dog is more reliable about what work is involved. Whereas the cats, it's like when they get into crap, it's like they've crawled somewhere that you thought no creature could get to, and then they peed there or something. It's like, or they jump up and knock over your TV.
Yeah, I think cats are, as a whole, such an independent creature that they just walk around like, this is my world and I can do what the fuck I want. And dogs, when they destroy shit, they're really just either trying to get your attention or thought it would be okay to play with this. Right. So, I mean, it's a different spirit in which they're destroying shit. But the cat was sitting on the couch next to me yesterday. I guess there was nobody home for a couple of days, pretty much, because I've been at the hospital as much as I can be.
Right.
And when I come in, he's meowing, and he's like long meowing, like he's trying to see if it's okay. Like he's a question mark at the end of his meow. And then he crawls up on the couch next to me and like literally plops down and like almost pushes my leg with his body plopping down. And I've got a heating pad on my back because my SI joint's so bad. It was so bad Thursday, that's why I didn't stream. It was so bad Thursday that I literally couldn't walk. I was doing the thing that you do when you're in a body cast like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't bend my knees, and like even sitting down, it was hugely hard. So I had the heating pad on. He sits next to me, and then he starts clawing into the pillow next to me. Well, that's where the wire for the heating pad is.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, if you keep that shit up, you're going to be like the cat on Christmas Vacation. You're going to be a little fucking smudge. And then he looked at me and stopped clawing. like he understood what I said. Like, yeah, finally.
Well, I'm sure the cat's probably never seen Christmas Vacation. But...
No, but maybe he understood that he's going to be a little black smudge.
Yeah.
I told him, you're going to short circuit that and you'll be a little black smudge. And maybe he kind of got that. Maybe not. We'll see. It's yet to be determined.
Oh.
So I haven't had a chance to read that. Like, I literally can't. This whole day has been so screwed up. Everything that I was doing, or I've tried to do, has been. It's been the hardest possible way that it could happen. So I didn't get a chance to read it, and I knew you wanted to put it on stream, so I guess I'll have a reaction.
Well, no, I mean, that's fine. Part of the reason why I was so keen on making sure I had at least up to the thing you had already drawn was that eventually, I mean, we have to get into making the smaller panels and whatnot, and so you need a script for that, so you know what's coming up. And I mean, like, Well, like last time, I basically had everything down to page 3, and I went through and I looked at it, and I was like, "Nah, we can get rid of one of these pages," which I can't do because I kind of need that. Page 3 needs to be page 3. So I got rid of almost everything that I had written. Not that I started over. I just got rid of. I guess I got rid of a page. Reworked it.
So a third of what he's written, if he'd written 3 pages.
Yeah, I guess. Except for page 3 is basically the picture that you drew, so it wasn't that hard. I mean, I suppose I put captions on it and whatnot.
Yeah. You could do captions. You could do personalized captions, like character captions, which would be internal dialogue or internal monologue. Sorry.
I may do that. And I also tried, because I opened up, I'm not going to put that on screen, because I don't know how public it is. But
What's that?
the script you sent me.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to, because I know what you're talking about.
But I was, so like I was going through and trying to make mine look more like that, just because I don't know why, but
Well, I basically sent you that because you had format questions, and he is kind of even loose on the format. But
well, I got that from reading it, where he's like, "Yeah, you can do whatever you." I was like, "Okay."
yeah, I wanted you to see how he, pretty much communicated with his artist, and the fact that that's exactly what you're doing is communicating with your artist. So I mean, we're not really worried about, like, he puts so many panels on, but sometimes the artist will find a way to shorten the panels or put more into a panel and feel that it fits better. And a lot of the best writers know that the artists are going to do their best to make them look good too. Because really, when an artist is working, he's trying to make everybody involved look good because he's one of the people involved.
Right.
And if he screws it up, then everybody knows it's going to be him that screws it up.
Well,
Especially like with Chuck Dixon, because he's such a renowned writer that you can't go and screw something that he wrote in the script up and go, "Oh, it's that guy's fault." Because there's enough proof that there's enough proof that that's not the fact.
yeah. So I mean,
really rough. So sorry, I'm really rough sketching this in pen. So I'm not trying to get a professional drawing or whatever. It's just a concept, but noodling around. But because I don't know how long we're going to stream, but probably it's just going to be truncated because you're normally not past 11, and
I'm an old man. I can't help it.
Trying to not run on empty.
I forget what I was going to say now.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Must not have been important.
I think we were talking about communicating with the artist or Chuck Dixon or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, all of everything that goes into the script is basically, in my mind, it's a suggestion. I'm not, there's like, so, if we think of this introduction as the pre-title sequence, that's how I think of it in my brain, then I kind of know how I envision the last shot of this part with the first shot of the next part. Like I've already kind of outlined some of this. I mean, even though the script is now already screwing up the outline, but that's the creative process. So,
well, I screwed up your outline because I wasn't on the same wavelength.
well, whatever. I don't. None of that matters. I mean, it really doesn't. My opinion is, be like water, nice and fluid. So, and actually, that picture helped tighten up the beginning. But some of that stuff, huh?
Be like water.
Yeah, I know.
So the Bruce Lee-ism.
Yeah, it's a good mentality. But yeah, so like some of the stuff. I mean, I'm putting stuff down on paper as I, going through and thinking about it. But even when I get through, because like originally in the script, I just put down goons or something like that, and I was like,
You just put down what?
Goons. They're just random characters that I plan on killing in a few pages.
Oh yeah, well that's fine unless they need names.
Well, they don't need names, but I did actually make them something, I guess. So, I made them a type of character, so I made it more specific. Which also begins to indicate some more stuff. Because the way last time we had talked about, I said they were like, well, we kind of simplified the structure of the opening in a way that required a few changes, I guess. And now I know what those changes are, so it changes who those characters are. But anyway, right now you're working on Mastiff, right?
Yes.
And this is a concept drawing for Mastiff?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to, for anyone who's watching or who watches, we had come up with the name Mastiff. Rich came up with that name, and I am in love with that name. I think that name is great for a character, but it wasn't for me. It didn't quite match up with the character we had started with, and so I had asked, "Can we make him another character?" Because I don't want to get rid of the name, but I didn't like the way I didn't think it matched the character that we already had, and so that's what Rich is doing. I actually didn't. Oh yeah. Earlier today, I tried sketching on the computer, which I have no program on this laptop that's really good for sketching. And it was a complete disaster. I mean, just utter complete disaster. It made me
What are you
laugh.
using?
I didn't have, literally I was like, okay, what could possibly...
What are you using? Are you using a laptop, you said?
Yeah.
Is it touchscreen?
No.
Oh. Well, I can't help you then.
Yeah, trust me. As someone who's done graphic design, I'm looking at all these programs, and I'm like, the closest thing that I have that would work would be Publisher, which, no. It's like, and what I really need to do...
There's some free or cheap programs for drawing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you don't have the ability to draw on something, like if you're just drawing with your mouse, it's going to make it difficult.
Well, I have an iPad from work, and it has a stylus and stuff.
So if you have an iPad, then I can tell you a program. There's a couple of drawing programs that I can find for you. That one of them is free, and it's like an infinite piece of paper. You can make it as big as you want to.
Oh, I mean, I already have Procreate on my iPad. I didn't bring it home.
Procreate, why didn't you draw it on your
I didn't bring it home. It's my work iPad, which I never use for work, or I rarely ever use it for work. And
So that means you weren't planning on drawing.
no, I wasn't, but I had an idea, and I wasn't sure how to express it for a helmet. I was like, "Ooh, this is..." So I may end up having to actually rough out a sketch and then not make you, but ask you to clean it up.
So you may have to draw a rough drawing and ask me
Yeah.
to interpret it.
Yeah. Well, we had talked about making some of the characters like the soldier types, and we weren't necessarily going to make them. Well, we were going to name them after fantasy races, but they weren't necessarily going to be those fantasy races. It's just that's what they're going to be called.
Right. And
So
we
is that-
talked about possibly making suits that kind of hint at it.
Right. And so I was trying to think like how that would work. And so
Like this.
Well, so I decided I would think about a goblin type suit, because I was like, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man Green Goblin was terrible. I mean, it just was. Sorry if you like that movie or whatever, or if you're watching this and you really love the first Spider-Man film from Sam Raimi.
I liked it. Chuck said that was one of the ones he would recommend for people that were starting to get into
Oh,
superhero fantasy and weren't into it previously, because it's pretty much got all the elements that you really want.
well,
I
I
liked
thought
it. I liked it. I don't know if I loved it. You're talking about the costume design anyway, right?
Oh, the Green Goblin costume design is terrible. I'm sorry. It just
Well, you got to expect that it was going to be something different than what we imagined, because movies do that all the time.
I know.
It's like watching the first X-Men, It's not, the costumes are not what they're supposed to be, but they were like leather jackets or whatever, so...
Well, here's my thing though. And part of it's challenge of that character. But like when Heath Ledger became the Joker, that was a huge design shift. And it was awesome. Like, hands down, I was like, that's amazing. Like, all of that made sense to me. I was like, it captures the character, it makes sense, I'm down with that. First picture I saw of Heath Ledger as the Joker completely changed my mind instantaneously about that character. And about that actor.
And I was not fond of it, actually.
I thought it was great. So,
Right.
when I look at the Green Goblin looked more like a Power Ranger, and it didn't do it for me. But I was worried about that kind of. I really was. I'm worried about the design looking like mech suits and stuff that just become the kind of generic, I guess. And I'm not saying that for like I'm worried about your skill. I'm just saying I don't want a design that looks generic, and I don't want it to look like the Sam Raimi Green Goblin. And so I was like, I want it to look. I was trying to think of it and skewing towards a more realistic type thing. And I was like, all right, so how can you make the face look even remotely like a goblin?
Well,
And I think I have an
what
idea.
does a goblin look like? What do you think a goblin looks like?
Well, I tend to think of big wide grins and bigger eyes and probably pointed ears.
So, what's your source material?
Just in my brain. I mean, I could look at other source materials, I suppose, but
Okay, the reason that I'm asking is this: what does an elf look like?
what is what?
An elf look like?
Well,
And it's not a trick question. It's a little bit leading question because I want to use it as an example.
it depends on which version of the elves you want to go with.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, when I ask you what an elf looks like, is that you have something predetermined in your mind when you
Yep.
think of an elf. I'm pretty sure everybody kind of does. But the original description of an elf is probably not what it is.
Okay, but I mean, part of what the challenge is, I think, is to make it look believable enough that you can say, yep, that's a soldier, because that's what they are. But at the same time, go, oh, I see, okay, I see what you're doing. I can kind of see, like, it doesn't have to be real thick and heavy.
So
Like, I
I
don't-
think that it needs to be a soldier first, but there should be hints in the costume design.
Well, see, part of that, I think I kind of figured out something that would like, because I had started off with orcs, and I always thought about how a lot of times you see orcs with the big teeth coming up from the bottom, and
What?
oh,
A lot of times you see what?
orcs with like a really
Orcs. Okay. No, I
Underbite.
didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry. So
It's not your fault. It's probably just me. I just didn't hear what you said. So I asked, what did you say?
well, I had started
Eventually I got it.
So I had thought about orcs and the teeth, and I'm like, well, you're not going to have teeth, but you could have something that kind of comes up, like columns or something that are right there. And I was like, that would kind of be reminiscent of the teeth, and kind of the way like you've kind of put ears and a muzzle on Mastiff. I mean, like, just
Well,
trying
it's actually not a muzzle, but yeah,
okay, but
it's a respirator. It's a
right,
Yeah.
but it kind of looks
It does look like a muzzle. That's the intention, but that's why. Because
So-
I wanted him to look like a mastiff.
so. So I was trying to think of, okay, how do you make the mouth look right without it looking fake?
You
and
don't.
stupid and all
You
this
don't
stuff.
focus on the mouth. You focus on the other stuff.
Well, so I was thinking, and I know you, well, whatever. So if he's wearing a helmet that comes down, basically covers his nose, and it has kind of a wider spot here, kind of sharp and angular, where the mouth would be. So there's no helmet there. It would kind of make it look kind of like a mouth without it necessarily being a mouth. It's just the fact that you're not necessarily covered there because you don't need to hide your. I don't know. I mean, most helmets don't necessarily cover things. And then, I mean, they normally cover the head, not the face. But this one would. So the eyes, I thought, you could shape, because those can be lenses, and there can be a very good reason for that. Like technology-wise, it kind of makes sense to have protective eyewear and that also has a function. And in the script, I think I
You ever curious to look up why George Lucas made full face masks on both the stormtroopers and like Darth Vader and guards like Imperial Guards and all that.
No, why did he do that?
He did that because there's a theory that when you don't see a human facial expression, it's scarier and you'll be less likely to rebel against it.
I thought it was to make them easier to mow down and destroy and blow up by the thousands because you've taken away the humanity. But
Well, it is taking away the humanity, but he was doing it for the opposite reason, so that people were afraid of this inhuman thing that was coming after them. I mean, it tends to work both ways because of the way the movie works, but it was really so that, like, if you look at something coming at you, the scarier shit is faceless stuff, not stuff that you can identify. It's that fear of the unknown, right? And he's creating an unknown with a mask. That's what kind of what they were doing with the Japanese samurai masks,
right,
and kind of what they were doing with the now I can't remember the Persians, the 1000s. I can't remember their names right now. Something like the undead or something like that. But yeah, that was the idea. Is they're faceless, and maybe it's a 10,000. We grazed over it in the movie 300, but there were really such a thing. Let's see. Immortals.
oh, I know what your partner talking about. I used to know
Yeah.
that.
The 10,000 immortals.
Yeah,
So there was always 10,000 of them, but they had their faces covered. So what you're seeing is that number constantly. That's why they're called the immortals, because people didn't think they died. Because when they would die, they'd just replace them and put that and with another masked individual. So then you've got that look at the gas masks. So if somebody's running at you with a gas mask on, like they did in World War II, or even World War I, but World War II, it must have been scarier because World War I, they were cloth bags and they were kind of collapsible. But World War II, you saw that shape of the German's helmet, which flared out a little at the bottom. Then you had the big, round, lifeless eyes, right?
Right.
You didn't see the actual eyes because the lenses were tinted. And on top of that, you had those tubes coming out, so they were breathing mechanically or sounded hollow or whatever. But yeah, that was the idea. So I don't think that's an unwise thing to keep in mind. Not that I'm trying to tell you your business.
well,
But
gotta
I guess it's
remember
my
when-
business too because it's a design thing. But that's
Yeah,
why I was saying don't worry about too much about the mouth because the scarier representations or the scarier individualities are the ones that are faceless. And a lot of fantasy stuff, the things that they want to be more horror oriented, they're faceless. They're faceless. The thin mans that turn sideways and disappear.
Yas. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this like nobody's business, and I apologize. Yastin Gamer 400 OP.
Right?
Welcome to the Gordox Pub. Oh, by the way, Rich, you don't have the sign up for the Gornox Pub.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know where that goes.
Actually, you probably clicked it off because I did click it on. So go to brand.
Okay.
You see where it says minimal block and all that?
Hold on.
All right, never mind. Scroll up from
Yeah, I
scroll
got it.
up
Yeah.
from the music.
I know. I'm there.
Okay, there's two overlays. Number 2 is the one that is the bigger one. Number 3 is the smaller one. You choose.
Oh.
Ta-da!
I did not know that. I don't think I did that.
If you graze your mouse over that same one, it'll say hide.
Yeah.
So you click on it and it'll hide it.
Right, I figured that.
And you scroll down one from there, and there's the countdown.
Yeah.
And see, add video clip. We can add little clips that are within the within the legal range of usage.
That's
Which
fun.
there's a certain percentage that's covered in fair use. Did I send you the link for the Graybeard show?
Nope. I don't
Huh.
think so.
No, I don't see it. I will later. Animal Presti uses little clips like that to, like if somebody says something smart ass to him or whatever, and like he'll have a picture of, or a little video clip of Mo Larry and Curly and him smacking the two of them, or an atom bomb going off, or somebody getting shot with a cannonball, not like exploded with a cannonball, but the humor of the 40s and 50s. So we can do that kind of stuff. It's just limited. I don't know what he said. It's a Spanish N, right? So it's ña.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I have no idea.
Oh,
But he said hi. I mean,
What is that? The Spanish N, is that the same thing? Is that hi? I'm saying Spanish N. That's the only thing I know it from. It's probably in Portuguese and everything else too, and I don't know it because I don't know very much.
to use my favorite German phrase, ich habe keine Ahnung. I have no idea.
My favorite German phrase right now is Achtung.
Oh, attention. I know a few more. They're generally bad things to say.
That's my problem with Spanish. I know quite a bit of Spanish, but all the stuff that I know to say is something that's going to insult somebody.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Did I tell you about Squidward?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you did, but if you want to repeat it for
Justin Gamer?
yeah.
Whoever. No, it's just, the German teacher told me to ask my son what the German version of Squidward's called. Which I thought, why would it just be called Squidward? But whatever. And apparently that's not what it's called in Germany. It's Thaddeus? Yeah, Thaddeus. So it's like really close to Thaddeus, which just makes me laugh, because that's my son's name.
Yeah, tattooed a guy that's last name was Teufel, which is Teuful.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it because it is a German last name, that it means devil.
Oh. Did he have any strange tattoos, marks, or anything?
No, I put some on
Random
you.
sequence of numbers, probably 3 of them, all the same.
No, I put some of them on him though, so that count.
I guess.
I put
I feel like you kind of have to lean into that one.
Amelia from some video game. She's kind of like a werewolf that's wearing bandages. She's a vicar Amelia. And I did the dude from Donnie Darko.
The bunny rabbit?
Yeah. Who else? But I did him growing on a tree.
I mean, it could have been Patrick Swayze for all I know.
Was Patrick Swayze in Donnie Darko?
Yeah, he was. He was the life coach.
Huh. I did not remember that. I don't know what's going on.
That may have been the last movie I ever saw with Patrick Swayze in it, actually.
Have you seen Steel Dawn?
No.
Patrick Swayze and Brian James. You haven't?
Oh boy. I don't think so.
If you haven't, I would suggest that you do. It's not something that you need to do right now or whatever. Not that kind of a movie, but it is. These are 90s sci-fi.
1987.
Well, I said 80s or 90s. That's like right in the middle.
Just letting you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit Dune, a little bit. You probably haven't seen it, like Death Game. Have you ever seen Death Game?
I guess not.
That's it's an old, and that's an old movie, so you would have to be watching out of your era. But that's a David Carradine movie where they're using these swords that look like glass, but they're supposed to be crystal. And when they stare into them, they see the future by a little bit. I finished that Bourne sequel book.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that the author has never read the Bourne Identity books. And I'm pretty damn sure because it takes place in between, I guess, what would be book one and book two. And Marie is dead. Well, if you read the Bourne Identity books, Marie has his son, and they're together through all of the books. And he's like over 50. Also, I don't know if you know this or not because it doesn't tell you in the movie. Bourne is a Vietnam vet.
I think I knew that. I mean, I've read the first couple books.
All right. So here's my thing. Now we discussed this with James Bond plenty. Okay.
Okay.
Here's one major difference between James Bond and Jason Bourne.
Okay.
Jason Bourne is a legend. It is a false identity. It is not the real guy.
Right.
So if they were to assign another agent, Jason Bourne, that would be fine.
Yeah.
But David Webb is not running around in 2024 and,
No, he's not.
jumping off buildings and dodging bullets and, shit like that because he was in Vietnam. So he's like 75, 80.
Yeah.
He was 50 in the Born Supremacy. Was that the last one? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, the third book. He was 50, and he was on an island with his wife, and his real enemy from the first one that never was in the movie, the Jackal,
Yeah.
was after him again. But Marie was there. So in this series written by this guy who took over for Eric Van Westbader, who I don't know how Eric Van Westbader did because I never read the actual novel to The Bourne Legacy. But I do know that Westbader actually was helping co-write Ludlum's plots in his later days. So I'm sure he knew what the idea was for Bourne. So in this book, this is my quick review, and there's spoilers to it. So I've already spoiled the original trilogy.
Yeah. Books are a little old by now.
By a little bit. Well, yeah, because the first one was written in 1980. But, so, Jason Bourne, the thing that was such an attraction to that character, besides the fact that he had amnesia, was that he was capable, just like James Bond, just like Sherlock Holmes, just like Indiana Jones, only he didn't necessarily know why he was capable. He just knew he was capable when it came to it. So he maybe made mistakes, but for the most part, he knew what he was doing when he went in, and that was the whole thing. Is every time he went into doing something, he had a plan. He didn't necessarily know why that plan needed to be, but no, that's not true. He knew why that plan needed to be. He just didn't know who he was using it against or why. But he's capable. In these books, he knows there are 3 women in this book. All 3 of him kick his ass. Like, all 3 of them kick his ass separately. All 3 of them save his life separately. Because he's not competent enough to pull up a gun and take a shot. Every single time that he pulls up a gun and takes a shot, except for one time, he's either too late, can't hit his target or whatever. But the girls in the room, even the ones that are not supposed to be trained, they can do that fine. So, I'm disappointed because he also, is supposed to have slept with 3 different women and fell in love with 3 different women. And like I said, in the books, after the first one, he's with Marie. He marries Marie. He stays with Marie. He has a kid with Marie. And this is a book. It's not, a sequel to the movie or whatever. But I think this guy's trying to write a sequel to the movie.
Well. Okay, so I have a question for you. This is a writing question.
You have a writing question for me?
Yes. I want your opinion on this.
He's teasing me.
So, I had an idea for a story that I think works particularly well for someone else's intellectual property. As I'm really unlikely to ever get the rights to use said intellectual property, what do you think the best method for making this my own intellectual property, even though I know I originally had the idea as a sequel to someone else's intellectual property?
That's really kind of a runaround question, huh?
Okay.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you is to divulge a little bit.
All right, I will. I don't care.
So
Because ideas are free.
all I want to know is, uh, what's the character? Like, what's the story you're writing a sequel that you want to write a sequel to?
I think I have a fantastic sequel idea for a Nightmare on Elm Street film. 100%. It would take it in a direction that has been dabbled in before, but never really explored. It would keep the character being Freddy still gets to be Freddy, but it makes it a really new twist without changing lore.
I
So
think
really-
that's a Wes Craven character, right?
I think he's the one that came up with it.
Is he still alive?
I don't know.
Well, I asked because I think you might be surprised with if Wes Craven would be open to it. You actually might be surprised. He might be a lot more open to it than you think.
Yeah, IMDb said he died in 2015.
Yep. So the next question is, does the studio own the rights or the Craven family?
Oh.
Nope, it's just small things because studios love that shit too.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to give it to some nobody from nowhere.
Well, they might steal it from you.
And trust me, I thought about that, but I was also like, this is just it takes a certain concept in horror films that I have always been intrigued by and never seen done well. In fact, I've never really seen it well. I've seen maybe one franchise kind of sort of actually do it, maybe sort of. Because I guess the Saw franchise sort of passed the torch, kind of.
So you want to pass the torch?
No, I don't actually, but it plays
You wanna
around with
pass
that
the
idea.
glove.
But
Okay.
it's definitely in that realm, and it's.
Okay, if you want to pass the love glove.
No. Nope. Freddy's got to stay Freddy. But my thing is like, all right, so. I mean, the way my brain works is, first off, I know this is originally thought up as a Nightmare on Elm Street concept.
All right,
Then I was
so
thinking-
my next suggestion, if you don't want to have it stolen,
Yeah.
there's two ways to go about it. You can create your own, which
Right.
you can literally take it and lay it out as Freddy, and then after the whole story is written, you can change it out to be a different character with a slightly different thing. Maybe he has two gloves, or whatever. I
That's
know
actually-
an author that actually did that with Conan. He wrote a Conan pastiche, and the editor he sent it to said, "Why don't you just write your own character?" So he did, and he made it historical. So it was a historical fiction novel when he was done, and that's called Men of Bronze by Scott Udin, if anybody's interested. And that would be my suggestion to you. You're either A, going to write fan fiction,
Yeah,
which
I know.
you might as well give the idea away and let them steal it.
Yeah, really.
Because you have no rights to it if they want to take it if it's fan fiction anyway. Because whoever owns the copyright owns the character, right?
Right.
So The other option is to create your own. One thing you don't have to worry about is me wanting to steal it.
Well, I mean, part of what I was thinking though was like, like, okay, so yeah, I kind of figured that too. Like, easiest thing to do is make my own character. That's the most straightforward path. So then I start thinking, okay, so what makes Freddy that is unique to him? Because you don't want to touch those. You can't. A guy that messes around in your dreams and has a razor glove. Even if I give him two, that's a ripoff. The dream thing is important. I got to keep that.
Hold on
That's
a second.
really not.
I've got something to say about that.
What?
Freddy's not the only one, and he's not the first one to terrorize people in his dreams.
Well, that's what I started looking at. Was the dream thing is not necessarily just him.
You seen Dreamscape?
Yeah, that's what I started thinking about. I was like, oh, Dreamscape did this too.
Cool.
So,
for any of those people that are too young to know what Dreamscape is, it was an excellent movie of its time.
Yeah,
where
that should be remade.
Where people, good and bad, that are of a psychic nature, could travel into other people's dreams and affect their lives in such a way as if they killed them in their dreams, they would die in reality. But they could also change their psyche for the better.
It was basically Inception before Inception. Inception, when you boil it down, is basically Dreamscape, but way more intellectual. But I remember when Dreamscape came out. I mean, I was enthralled with those trailers, and my parents would not take me to go see it. Now, granted, I was pretty young, so that's probably a good call on their part. But, I mean, it took me years before I ever got to see that movie. And it's all right. I mean, for the time, it was awesome, but I guess they kind of remade it, but I would kind of, some of the more fantasy elements of the dreams were cool.
And that might be why I like it the way I like it. It's a little campy, but it's a little campy because they threw humor into it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's kind of really like a Stephen King plot. The shop is after them.
Yeah, kind of. Of course, I've always said the shop is one of the greatest literary inventions ever.
Yeah, well, you know, I was thinking Dennis Quaid is basically playing Charlie's dad, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. Huh. I wonder if that gives... Anyway, it's something I've been thinking about. And then also just trying to figure out how to make it mine, and so it's not Nightmare on Elm Street Part whatever.
Unless you could make it Nightmare on Elm Street Part whatever.
Oh yeah, trust me, I would. Just because I would find that so fascinating, but I suppose in a perfect world, I would write a book, and then they'd love it and want to adapt it, because it could be adapted, but I don't think that's going to work either. I think I'm going to have to make it too different, but still a cool concept. It was something that was just... I mean, some of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I mean, they are a product of their time, but overall, the concept's pretty cool. I find it kind of funny that everyone's always scared of his razor fingers, and I'm like, that's really not his superpower. Like, that's just, all right, cool.
It's not a superpower, but it's what he kills people with most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's what. And I don't know if everybody's scared of him. Like I'm certainly not scared of him, but I think it's those 5 fingers of peering through stuff, slicing through people. Peering. That's I guess that's legitimate cause to think that's pretty scary. But I think it's the combination of that kind of controllability,
Yeah.
with him attacking you in your dreams where you're defenseless to stop him. I think that was the real sell, is that he's attacking you in your dreams. It's what they based Dream Warrior on and all that shit, because there's some, I want to say, African legend about it too. But I say, an original horror movie might, an original horror book might propel you to where you want to go just as much as anything else.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you want to write horror?
Well, see, the funny thing is, I started off writing horror, but then
I
I
did
couldn't
too.
come. Yeah, my first sales are all horror, 100%. The very first story I ever sold, the first story I had accepted for publication, which was not a sale, but whatever, was, I guess it's sci-fi, but it's about killing a kid.
Okay, most horror is either sci-fi or fantasy, unless it's
I know.
psychological.
The second one, the first sale I had was Mr. Greaves, and that was about a guy who he could take away whatever is like your pain, basically, which is great, except for what he was doing with that was actually not so cool. So that was kind of that was my first sale, and then I had another one about bookworms. About a book that kind of possesses you or whatever, and yeah, I really started off writing horror, but then I felt like it was getting repetitive, and I didn't really have any good idea. That's actually when I kind of stopped looking at horror books too. Like I just was like, these are, I don't know, it just didn't ever seem.
My first publication was horror as well. My first paid publication was horror.
Yeah.
It was about well, it was about 2 kids that were going some places that they're not supposed to go.
Yeah.
But one of the places they went that they're not supposed to go was actually trap for little boys that go places that they're not supposed to go.
Yeah.
And it had a ghost of a sad girl that was really a puppet that went over this monster's tentacle. So he would, make her appear in the windows and draw little wayward boys in. But what happened for me was that my real first love wasn't horror. When I started reading adult novels, like adult, I don't know if there's any other word for it. It's not children's fiction, but it's not, sex stuff.
Right.
I started reading horror novels because that's what everyone around me was reading, and it was like Stephen King, Dean Koontz, John Saul, and Robert McCammon.
Yeah.
And I found that one of Robert McCammon's books became my favorite book because it really wasn't horror. It was very much like To Kill a Mockingbird, but only with a boy and with some questionably magic elements. It was still, kind of that whole dark, when they were calling Birmingham, Birmingham, and all that stuff in the 50s.
Right.
So it was like 20, 30 years after To Kill a Mockingbird, and it was with a boy, and he was coming of age, and it was an investigation too of, there was like a murder at the beginning of it that this boy is investigating through his whole summer while he's coming of age. So there was a whole bunch of elements like that really interested me. So, but it wasn't just strictly horror. And what I realized is the other thing that I was reading was horror and Conan pastiches.
Okay.
Like when Eat the Cat said, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Oh, I said hello to him.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Maybe I missed it.
That's Aaron.
Yeah, I only, I call him what he identifies as.
Oh, that's just asking for trouble.
You get in trouble for anything else these days. So
Although
yeah,
that's
like
gonna be kind of
I
weird.
was really into fantasy pretty much from the beginning too, and I recognized, I guess, early on that I was into horror for that otherworldly, or not, I guess not necessarily magical, but fantasy comes from myth, monsters, and magic, right? So I liked the myth and the monsters because I was reading Conan pastiches, and the only magic that was in Conan novels is the bad guy's magic.
Aaron says he identifies as a purple cat.
All right, eat the cat. Eat the cat. So he identifies as a purple pussy. And we shall treat him as such.
Oh my god.
Excuse my slightly warped humor.
Oh,
Or don't. You don't have to. Like, I don't care.
No,
I've had a rough one, so.
I was worried because earlier, you were texting me because you were going to be late. And you said you had that, I'm assuming it's the autocorrect thing.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Where you said you were going to be dreaming later. And I was like, what? It's dreaming. Which then I was like, made perfect sense. And I just laughed.
Yeah,
so
I didn't even see what it did. It does that shit. Like, it'll autocorrect after I make sure it's correct already.
Yeah. Well,
I've never seen that before. It's like they set you up to fuck you up. Like,
then I'm responding back with LOL, and before I can hit, like right before I hit send with LOL, you had typed this about how you're coming home from the hospital. So it looks like it said that you're coming home from the hospital, and I'm laughing at you. And I was like, oh, let's clarify that one.
Well, I was assuming that you weren't laughing at that.
Well,
my wife laughs at the predictive text shit too because I swipe type.
Yeah.
and it inevitably I'll see it pop up on the screen as right, and it'll switch it. So she knows that's going on, but she laughs at it anyway. So I'm kind of used to people laughing at me. So what do you think? Is this guy a good guy or a bad guy?
Well, I mean, personally, when I hear Mastiff, that's a good boy. So, yeah, it's built into the name.
To me, I think it could go either way because Mastiff, the Mastiff that I was intending it to be was the original Mastiff, which was the first Dogs of War. But I'm sure that they were good boys when they weren't at war.
They were the best.
And they were good boys for the Greeks when they were at war. So, it could go either way that you want it to go. I'm just talking about, do you think, visually it says bad boy or good boy?
I think well, okay, so I always want to call it a muzzle, but whatever that is.
That's so I don't have to figure out how to do teeth in the costume.
That's fine. I think it's a good look.
Yeah, I thought it kind of gave a dangerous look to him too. So.
Right. So I mean, like right now, he looks pretty darn mean.
Right, but mean doesn't mean bad.
Right. So I don't know.
My original thought was that he was a good guy, someone to go on Shepard's team.
Right. That was something where I thought that was my original thought too. But then I also thought I could probably work with it either way.
Yeah, we also were talking about the difference between I don't want to say good guys and bad guys, but that's just like an easy way to clarify for someone that doesn't know what we're talking about. But like that's one of the differences between the two city-states, right? Is that one has a strict no code on a certain kind of experimentation, and the other one has a anything that works clause. Am I getting that right? Like I don't want to mess that up. But, talking about biological versus
mechanical. Okay, before I respond with that, I just want to read Aaron's thing because he said Batman adapted to Bane technology. And didn't you say that was kind of partially inspired by Bane? Am I crazy?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
that's fine.
He's not inspired by Bane as my thoughts of the character. He's a little bit inspired by Bane in thoughts of my conception drawing him.
Okay, that's what I meant.
So it was like he's not like breathing any poison or any of that shit. It's this mask is mostly to keep him safe when he's in the lands that are Badlands or could possibly be poisonous air or whatever.
There was a news article that came out, I want to say last year or the year before, and I forget whose military it was, and I kind of think it's Russian. There was some group that was wearing weird dog masks. So I hope that wasn't somewhere in our military, because it's kind of weird, but whatever. But
I know the Germans used to call their youth specialists werewolves. So maybe it was something based on that idea.
So I've been fleshing things out, and I don't know if our main big bad is going to have necessarily as centralized location, but some cities are going to be more open to them than others.
If
And
he
that's
doesn't
kind
have a centralized location, where will he be for anybody to bring him whatever he needs?
Well, so like, I mean, I've got that figured out too, actually. But
Okay, as long as you got it figured out.
I do, at least like the world building aspects of it. But part of it, I was thinking along the lines of, I guess Spectre and James Bond, about how Spectre is an organization that is kind of everywhere and nowhere at once.
Well, to be fair, though, we're not living our whole existence. Isn't in city states.
Oh, I know.
Like maybe Greece is in city states, but not every country is, and we're talking about a time period where there's nothing left but city states, right?
Right.
Just making sure.
So, I guess, like, like the main conflict. I think I have a character that's pretty well beneath the. I'll just say the number one. He's not number one. He's like number. If you know the Spectre hierarchy, how there's like one is at the top, and then it's numbered all the way down. That kind of thing. So it's kind of like that, I guess. And so this would be like your number 3 or so. It's going to be, I think, the main emphasis of the big bad. I think. Because it works with how this would be set up, I think. Plus, it's always normally good to have a bigger bad if you want to continue on. A bigger challenge. So this presents opportunities so that you can create plenty of villains if you need to for a storyline. Because part of me just, I think it behooves us to keep an eye and an ear out for possible sequels, expansions, franchise, that kind of thing. Not that we aren't going to tell a complete story, because we want to tell a complete story, right? That's always the goal.
Yeah, well, it might not continue on with this person or whatever. This particular tale is about one thing happening, right?
Right. So, early Marvel films. It was complete film. It's all good. You didn't have to watch 17 other ones to figure it out. But they eventually all kind of built into one big giant thing, which is kind of cool. That's kind of where they probably should have ended it. Or, I don't know. That's the problem with, I think, movies. It's, people don't have the problem with books. They'll read, an entire series. They don't, And if you want to get into it, you just, what's the first one?
Well, it's funny with books. There's two different mindsets that I've noticed lately.
Yeah.
One mindset is, I don't care if there's an ending. I like the characters. I like the world.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is, I'm not reading any more of your shit because you're not writing an ending. So there is a crowd that just likes the world building, and they like really what they find in that world. And not disputing you or whatever. I was just kind of adding context to it.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely agree with you. I mean, I see your perspective on that, and I agree, and I think we're aligned. We want this book to feel like it's over, or at least it's a complete story.
Yeah, it needs to be a complete story. That doesn't need to be the end of the world.
Right. Which is really, again, it harkens back. I mean, Mission Impossible does this. Yeah, some of it kind of carries over from film to film, but basically every film is its own film. Same with James Bond. Well, James Bond used to do that. Then they kind of stopped with the Daniel Craig series. But
yeah, because they don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore with the Daniel Craig series. They stopped knowing who James Bond was.
Yeah. Anytime you start, people aren't going to like. It's not, it's not what modern audiences are looking for. Like I think they are. I'm sorry.
Some of them are starting to realize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I heard it put in an interesting way. And of course, it's a Chuck Dixon thing that it's the modern, what they're doing with the Daniel Craig movies was adding too much personality into a character that it's not not his personality you care about. And that's paraphrasing, but he's right in that way because that's what everybody's looking at. They're not looking at what the real story is about and who James Bond really was or is, as far as the books go and the creation goes. What they're looking at is making him more sensitive and making him more real, and
yeah,
he's not really going to be more real because he's not made to be realistic. He's made to be an archetype.
Yeah, I that's like I did not know until like a few days ago that the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which I am dying to see, Ian Fleming makes an appearance. I mean, not the actual Ian Fleming because he's dead, but it is based on real life, and it is based off of, I guess, apparently this movie is kind of what it's based on the events that inspired Ian Fleming to write James Bond. So,
Hmm.
well, it's just, it's special forces and going in, and
Ian Fleming was the spy master.
I know, but again,
Okay,
this is
well, I'm just saying, like, I know that too because I've read up a lot on him. Did you know that Ian Fleming actually helped create the CIA?
yeah, I think I did know that.
Yep, they called him in and he helped create the CIA. I thought that was really interesting. I was like, what?
Well, I think the Americans looked at what the British had, and the British have always been pretty good with their spies. So I think they kind of wanted to, best practices, all that stuff, or at least whatever the British were willing to share.
I found it funny because I've seen a lot of stuff on Ian Fleming that basically says that he's full of shit on a lot of stuff, but he says stuff that just he thinks is going to sound cool.
Yeah.
Like martini shaken and not stirred.
Right.
Well, how the fuck do you think you make a martini anyway? You shake it in a shaker.
Yeah.
But it sounded cool to say shaken and not stirred, so he said shaken and not stirred. and this was from one of his friends.
So I was watching that stream you sent of Chuck Dixon. I didn't watch all of it. I watched the part. Like I watched some of it, and I was like, "Yeah, I really want to see
you'd
what
get a kick out of a couple of parts because he's in complete agreement with you on a couple of parts."
Oh, I don't know. I was looking at his stuff. I mean, the politics thing, which was in the title, because we've talked about this before, and I think I generally agree with Chuck Dixon about where and how politics fit into comics. And I know that you and I have talked about, and you were like, you were trying to avoid politics and
like current politics, like
right.
current events can stay the fuck out of our book. But
right. But I was looking at like Jeff Bezos. I haven't read the article. I just saw the clickbait, and I just was whatever. But I just kind of filed it in my brain about Jeff Bezos wants to use AI to fix the climate, and I'm like, that's kind of what I was warning about. So it's not necessarily that it's politics. It's just I'm trying to extrapolate where things could possibly end up, and generally because we need.
Right, but so what led to the world being the way it is?
Yeah.
Isn't the politics of the comic book?
Right. It's not. It's just that's what it is.
It's the past politics, and those that are in the comic book are trying to
just live.
Well, I was going to say, raise what they killed from the dead. Like, it's about trying to survive and move on, not just trying to survive, right? At least to a point, Like, it may not be the whole premise, but that's kind of the bad guy's premise at least. So he may choose a radical way of solving the problems he perceives.
Yeah, okay, that works.
But this is how to not only survive, but how to move forward and not, repeat the past. And it's a loose description because that's all we got right now is a loose description.
Yeah.
And an understanding. Yeah, like when I decided that I was going to share that particular one with you.
Yeah.
It was because he was saying something at the time. I think it was like almost 3/4 of the way through or something like that. And whatever he was saying, I can't remember what it was at the time. My brain's a little addled in the last couple of days. But he was saying something that I was like, Brett was just saying something exactly like that. I think he actually, and I don't know, however, yeah, let me slow down and start again. I don't know if you've watched the Chuck Dixon show before.
No,
but he's a big fan of the G.I. Joe comics as well.
Oh, yeah?
Like, he doesn't necessarily come out and say it, but he talks about it, not infrequently, though not like every single time. He has an interesting perspective on writing as well. Because he has some novels out. Those novels are not the lengths that we have been taught to write. They're probably about half the size of that we write.
Okay.
But they are definitely man's man hero books. And their pacing is set for that. Their depth is set for that type of audience. He's a product of, like, he's an older guy, so he's a product of the old westerns and, you know, James Bond, and I would even maybe say the Bourne books and that type of thing too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what he's written is really in that flavor. So I find it interesting that he really is along the lines of a lot of the stuff that we agree on, and some stuff he agrees on with me, and some stuff he agrees on with you. So it's a nice kind of middle of the road, all inclusive to our type of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's generally an hour. And he answers questions. Sometimes they're stupid, silly questions. Sometimes they're pretty insightful. But they're almost always relevant to comics. Because that's what he does. Writes comics for a living. Yeah, that's why I sent it to you. And I saw a particular section, and I'm like, oh, he's talking to Brett right here. And now you didn't watch that section, so I don't even know what it was. But I'm pretty sure when you see it, you'll go, oh, yeah, that's what he's talking about.
I'm trying to remember if I answered your question or not, or if I just changed the subject.
Please question.
Well, you asked one, and I said I'll answer that, but first I wanted to say something, and then now I don't remember if I ever circled back.
I don't remember what the question was.
Must have been really important, but
Do we ever talk about anything important?
hey, it's Jay.
Hey, Jay. Oh, one of the things I love about conceptual drawing for me,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to look like I know what I'm doing. Not until I use that concept to.
sorry I got quiet. I was having me a thinking. So,
You were having you were thinking.
yeah. I was just.
And he's the writer of this comic book.
That's right. Had to do me some thinking. See, that's the writer doing the real work. We sit around and we navel gaze.
Yep, you're doing the real work. I'm just lollygagging. Doodling.
He's a doodling. Let's see. Which one of us is irreplaceable in this whole part? Oh, you, because I can't do it.
Can't do it or just can't do it like me?
I could not do it as well as you, or it would take me so long. Like, I'm sure eventually I'd speed up, but it would definitely take me a while.
I'm not really quick, so
You're a lot quicker than I would be. Now,
Well,
back when I was in college, and like there were deadlines, and these. God, I think somewhere hiding in my mom's house, I have a 9-foot tall pencil drawing, colored pencil, and it's a self-portrait.
I can see why they're saying that art would be expensive for you.
Yeah, well,
9-foot color pencil drawing. That might be a little bit expensive.
yeah, trust me, there are. What really kind of torques me is that I know of ways now that it could have made it faster. And I'm like, okay, why is it that I'm learning things years later about how to do this stuff? And really, most of the art classes, they don't teach you anything. They say, go do this, and we'll grade it. That's the whole process. And that's not helpful. By the way, that's what I also think a lot of any class is. That's the thing that I don't know, bothers me. Just seems to me a lot of classes are, go do this, and I'll see how well you did.
You have those teachers that just want to be there because they get paid to sit around and hang out.
I guess.
Not every teacher cares, but that's all professions, right?
Yeah, that's every profession.
Yep, it's all professions. There's no one that's like, oh, I care, and everyone in it does. Even doctors, nurses.
And
We have an early overnight nurse. Shit, before I left the hospital today, Amanda called for a nurse to help because there was a situation that she needed help with doing something with Eli, and I'm not going to mention what.
yeah, I can figure.
And she waited 45 minutes, and they never showed up. His IV was dinging, right, for 45 minutes. And then we stepped out in the hallway because I was heading home. And the nurse is all like, is that his IV dinging? And Amanda's like, yeah, for 45 minutes. So not everybody in every profession cares, not even the ones that are supposed to.
No.
And then there are those others that go out of their way. So I'm not just talking about the medical profession, but in the medical profession too, because I don't want it to sound like I'm an unappreciative patient's father or whatever, because there are a lot of people that doctors, nurses. He's got schoolmates that played basketball with him that have graduated that recognize him when they come into his room.
Cool.
So like, it's not like he's not surrounded by people that care, because he is. I just wanted to specify that because we were talking about school teachers, and I brought up the medical profession, but I was bringing it up as an example, not to throw shade on them or whatever. That's why I didn't mention any names. Yeah. Let's look for. That's. Need a drink.
Okay.
As always, not a sponsor.
Wow, those things are so good.
How's it going, Jay? Are you still with us? I can always tell when he's seen my announcements in the David Finch server because he's the only one that really responds to any.
Jay said, "Yup." I mean, I'm interpreting the voice, obviously.
That's what they pay for. That's what they keep coming back for.
I just want to lie and say it is amazing how far that sketch has come from the one on the right to the one you're working on now. That's just
Well, I was a little frustrated here. Couldn't get the fucking pen to work right. You know how it is.
Jay said he's trying to get some of his own drawing done.
Cool. What are you drawing? So there's a writing section on the David Finch fan server now.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and we get everything from people telling, like trying to tell a story, and it really sounds like a synopsis. And it looks like they're writing a synopsis in prose form.
Yeah. I've seen people do that.
Yep, but they're supposed to be writing in comic format.
Oh.
And I mentioned something because somebody wrote something in comic form, or trying to write it in comic format, but they wrote it in script format, like
Yeah.
screenplay.
Right.
And I was saying, you're doing a little bit more work than you have to, and I think they got defensive, and I was like, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to make. Oh yeah, for the challenge, okay.
I was trying to draw Black Cat. That's cool.
Yep, that's the next challenge. I put up my challenge, and I think like 3 people did it. Oh, what was I saying? Nothing important, right? Nothing important. I was saying it.
Fan service script. The guy was being defensive. You thought the guy got defensive.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of loosely.
Basically, you were trying to save him time.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to save him the energy because he was in a screenplay. You're not doing your next indented line. You have to center whatever the dialogue is. So you're basically writing everything centered.
Yeah.
And he was doing that, and I'm like, that's way more work than you need to do. Like you don't have to center the dialogue, and somebody else. I mean, the relevant part of this story is somebody asked me what the right format was. So I had written a 3-page. I don't know if I showed you. I think I did. A 3-page Batman story. There's no dialogue. There's no need for dialogue because the whole point of this story was writing something that could be drawn to show that you can tell a sequential art story. So it was a script for people that I knew that wanted to have a script to work from, so that they could make something they could submit to maybe DC or Marvel, showing that they could tell a story, in limited panels. And so I basically showed him that, and I said, there's no dialogue, but the dialogue just capitalized on every line after. I don't know if I actually said that the dialogue is capitalized.
Oh, shit. Crap.
The dialogue's not capitalized. The tags are capitalized. The people who are saying the dialogue is capitalized. And some of them don't even do that. But the key thing, and I keep saying it, is that the script is communicating between an artist and a writer what needs to go on the page. Sometimes the writer doesn't know what all needs to go on the page to accomplish it, because sometimes writers don't think, because they're thinking, let me qualify that. They don't think because they think that you can actually drop your keys and pick them up in the same panel, and you really can't.
Oh yeah, there was a thing about that. Oh my
God. So, sometimes the artist needs to go, okay, which is more important, or can I divide this panel up into 2 inset panels, or an inset panel and a regular panel, so there are things that it's left to the artist to figure out for a reason, or that the artist figured out for a reason. There's an eternal argument going on in the comic book community over which is more important, the artist or the writer. I am of the mind that both are important. Just as important if you're going to have a really good story. Because if a writer writes a great story and the art sucks, nobody's going to know the story. If the artist draws great stuff but the writer sucks, they're going to remember the art, but they may not remember why it was there, what the purpose of it was, the story that was being told. They just know that there's some great art to look at. So, there's 2 mentalities on it. Actually, there's 3 mentalities on it, but mostly, you've got the fighting between whether or not it's more important to have a writer or an artist. I think they both. It's like an artist actually can be a great penciler and have an inker fuck it all up. Like the inker goes over it, doesn't seem to know what the artist was getting at or whatever, and makes a guess and screws up. And I've seen many times a colorist color something that was supposed to be sky as clothes, or just something wrong. So I don't think either one of them can be dispensed with if you want top quality. Matter of fact, one of the most memorable comics I read, I talked about it before, was a Wolverine that was written by Larry Hama, who wrote most of the G.I. Joes for a long, long time. and drawn by Adam Kubert, I think. And the art was good. The story didn't seem to match up with the art as it was going until the end, which, that was. I'm reading in Wolverine's jumping on these, jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and but the story's in this little girl telling a story, right? So until the end, and they kind of meet up, then the story kind of is disjointed and kind of confusing. But when it comes together, everything literally does come together. So it was kind of a brilliant story. But that wouldn't have happened with a half-ass writer. Larry Hama has a lot of experience in not only writing, but he was in the movie The Warriors, so he had some script reading and knowledge, like how to put together a script is what I'm talking about when I say knowledge. And I think that has helped him with plotting and writing, because he knows that when they film a movie, they don't necessarily film it from front to back.
Right. And it's rarely front to back.
Right. The Crow was pretty close, but not quite, It's a good thing that they didn't have the opening scene him getting shot, right?
Right.
So if done right, each one is just as important as the other. Will Eisner, who the award's named after, he said famously that the artist and the writer need to be close. And in his opinion, they need to be so close that they share the same body. I don't know if that's the case, but I think of it like when a movie's put together, there is a writer, a director, a cinematographer, a clothing designer. There are all these people that go into the creation of a movie, and if any one of them fails on any level, we kind of know it, right?
Right.
Like if the clothes designer fails on in their job, which you wouldn't think it's an important job, but look at Star Trek. Can you believe that they're going to go out and fight in those uniforms? Like, they won't even stop a pedal. Somebody threw a rocket at them, they'd be crying.
Yeah.
There's no armor in that. And no, I'm not a big fan of Star Trek. I've watched a couple of okay episodes. I think the older ones are the most hokey, but they don't read as super political.
Oh,
so
there's some stuff there, but
they're a lot more fun because they don't have politics slammed right through the whole thing. I think people give the next generation too much credit, even though there are good actors associated with it, great actors associated with it in some cases. And I know probably some people are going to be really upset with that. But.
Oh yeah, by the way, the views expressed by Rich are not the views expressed by me. So,
but they're the views expressed by this channel.
Okay, whatever.
Because this is my channel. That's mostly a joke.
Yeah. I
don't really consider this just my channel.
There are certain Star Trek.
I know that.
Yeah. There are certain Star Trek series that I've enjoyed. There are other ones I can't stand. I'm not. And the films I've all enjoyed. But
I enjoyed the one that was, with the host of Fantasy Island. But Beacher was kind of dumb.
Well, yeah, but the spectacle was kind of cool and stuff. And, I don't know. I mean, they're enjoyable for what they are, the films and stuff. But some of the series just was. I just was like, oh, I'm sorry. I guess you hate me. So I'll just okay. I don't need to watch it anymore. So I don't know. Other series were fine, and when they started cursing.
It's funny because that's the way I am about Star Wars. Some of the series I really like, some of it's like, you hate me.
I think it's worse than Star Trek, but when they started cursing in Star Trek, it defies lore. Like, it's canon that they don't curse. So I'm sure some Star Trek nerd is going to come on here and explain to me how
They curse in Klingon.
Yeah, probably in Klingon. And it's cool, man. But I mean, whichever one they go back in time for, they lay it down. They don't curse. So I don't like that. Plus, I've always thought, Star Trek. This is a dad thing, I suppose, but growing up, I could watch Star Trek with my parents, and it was perfectly fine. Safe TV. But then they started cursing, and it's like no, that's no longer safe for younger children. Because I was watching Star Trek in elementary and middle school.
You don't think they curse in elementary and middle school?
Oh, I know I did, but still, it's something
that a few curses from middle schoolers.
I had to ride the bus. Trust me, you learned everything there. That was the real education. But I don't know. It's what you're endorsing, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it added anything. It just looked lazy.
I don't know. Yeah, so I agree with that. Sometimes it just doesn't add anything. It doesn't. Sometimes it does, though. Sometimes it adds something to a story, but I don't think in the Star Trek setting that you would, because they've been through some super, super tense times.
Oh yeah,
without it.
I would never say that you shouldn't have cursing in a Quentin Tarantino film. Like, that's expected.
Or Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. That's the brand. It always has been, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. But they changed the Star Trek brand in a way that, didn't add anything. I mean, a well-placed curse word can be a beautiful thing. I'm
fucking A right.
So, I don't have that big of a problem with it. Or I'm not like some big prude. I just think that, if you kind of expect the brand, and they are subverting your expectations.
Yeah. For no other reason than to subvert your expectation.
Yeah, because it didn't add anything to those stories or those characters or anything else. Just made them look, I don't know, less than what they used to be.
Right. I absolutely agree too. By the way, that's something that you and I are definitely on the same page with. And I think the key to it is you saying that, it doesn't add anything to it. But not only doesn't it add anything to it, it kind of takes something away because there's a respect that you have for the captains, even if you don't like the show very much.
Right.
Because those captains go through so much and they don't do that. They are reasonable, logical, sometimes emotional, but they don't let their emotions control them. And I don't think you can as a captain of a ship like that where you're responsible for that many people. So it not only doesn't add, it takes away something. I don't think it's the audiences though. I'm not saying I don't think it's the audience. I don't think because kids are watching, that's the right reason. Because I dead out saw Blue on Blue's Clues say what the fuck. Oh yeah, Blue was all like boop, boop, boop. And that's when Steve disappeared behind the bookshelf in the Blue's Clues movie. He's all like boop, boop, boop. And I was like, did Blue just say what the fuck? And my wife's like, what? So I rewound it. And she's like, something. Blue just said what the fuck. So, if it's okay for that, it's not a kid thing.
Oh, that's funny.
It was, but it's true. It's funny because it's true. I'm sure none of the little kids caught it, but any adults that watched it were dead out like, Blue just said, what the fuck? If you watch that Blue's Clues movie now, you'll be all like, son of a bitch. Blue did say what the fuck.
I need to find a clip of that. So tee that up in our little queue. Whenever anybody says something, Billy says,
That would be awesome. So it's the first Blue's Clues movie, and Steve goes into a different world. So he does his little dance, and he spins and shrinks down and runs through a mouse hole. And Blue's all like, "Burp, burp, burp." It's kind of awesome.
Kinda.
Yeah, kinda.
Oh my goodness.
There is that. It's for little kids thing, but it was so unexpected. You could even say it was out of the blue. And yes, I toned that down because I knew it was going to be a stupid joke, but it was too late. It was on its way. It's kind of like a wet fart. By the time you realize it's a wet fart, it's already stained your shorts. And he farted in the hospital because he's had diarrhea, explosive diarrhea.
Yeah.
Like, did you do more than fart? And he's always going to answer no because that's his standard answer. No. Like, just farted. And I'm like, did it have luggage? And so the nurse starts laughing because she's never heard that phrase before. But that's a pretty common phrase in the house. Like, yeah, a fart with luggage. You know what that means. Like Motley Crue said, now it's time to change.
Oh.
I was surprised he told me that he wanted me to stream tonight, but you got to, you know? And that's the situation. You really don't have any choice. I'm pretty sure he's not watching. You don't tend to watch. But, you know, if he's in a nearby room. Hmm. I gotta let this pasta dry, and then I'm gonna erase it. Guess that's not even an important piece of paper. Well, it does have the first draft.
Oh, yeah.
We tried to take a little bit more of a cartooning approach with this one. Well, obviously not on the muscle tones, because that's what I draw for. I love the muscle tones. But the shape language is supposed to be a little bit more cartoon, a little bit more folded over, and not too worried about how strictly clean the lines are, especially with the rocks. It does look like he's pounding his way towards you, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think once we determine what this guy's going to actually look like, I'm going to probably I'll do a giveaway with this sketch. Maybe. We haven't done a giveaway in a while, and we've had a few people join up. So I think it would be pretty cool to show appreciation.
So I'm watching you draw this thing, right? And it's something of a Rorschach test as to what you see first, whatever. Because, certain shapes get done and then kind of, and then you're like, that makes no sense. But that's kind of what it looks like at that stage and all that stuff. And it's just kind of fascinating as it comes together. It's like, oh, it's not a giant Daffy Duck head. Okay, got it, cool.
It's Greywater.
I get it.
It's Greywater.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was again, it was the shapes that you had at different stages, and then it, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, what the heck? And then, like, as you're like, and then sometimes your hand kind of gets in the way as to what's actually happening, and then you pull your hand away, and it's like something completely different. And you're like, oh, where'd that come from? And it's just kind of fun. It's just neat. I don't know. Aaron said I saw a ship.
Couldn't have anything to do with the bow and the bowsprit.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm thinking, whew. It's a good thing he didn't see it down the plane.
I see a butterfly. I'm just kidding. That's the bestest giraffe ever.
Not really supposed to be anything but a silhouette for background. I was going to try to do maybe a triangle composition or something like a Cornwell vignette or something like that, but I'm not that good. Or at least not that good on the fly. I'm gonna stick with the first.
I think it would be more on the fly part. Or at the very least, perhaps it's, if you mean you're not that good, means that it's not instinctual, so you had to think about it for a minute and then realize the composition or whatever. Maybe.
Cornwell is a hero a little bit, so it's like Frazetta.
Yeah.
I'm not really truly expecting to ever be them. Just like they probably never expected to be, anything near what their heroes or I don't know. I know you can see where Frazetta swiped images from French painters and other painters. You can definitely see where he was a fan of Howard Pyle. And Howard Pyle taught Dean Cornwell, taught, you know, NC Wyeth. And
So, Jay was saying that he was looking at some Keith Parkinson today.
Keith
He
was
asks,
awesome.
"You guys like him?" Question
Yeah,
mark?
Keith was awesome. One of his best friends is Den Bavay, who was an awesome artist in his own right. Yeah, I do like Keith, and Keith evolved over time. Just before he died, he was so realistic; it was incredible. Yeah, definitely. Keith left is like Frazetta. He left a void that is never going to be filled. Those guys, the early D&D artists, and some of those created a look that I don't think they were even trying to create. I know Todd Lockwood, Michael Whalen. Den is a pretty awesome artist. I guess I'll take a minute to show that. Keith is really awesome. Yes, I like him a whole lot. He had some Deathgate cycle covers in Forgotten Realms that were pretty cool. In fact, he was one of the first painters I started looking at different hots and colds than just doing orange to red to brown, gray to black to dark blue. So the transition for him, he had some purples in there in the transition and stuff that were really kind of cool to look at an alternate way of doing it. Let me see real quick. Den's got a Facebook page that he produces a lot of stuff that he paints so much so quickly. You're talking about my art being quick. That guy, it's like he just touches the brush and all of a sudden he's done. Every day he's showing stages. And he's very forthcoming with his knowledge, which is another really great thing. So, one of my favorite images of Den Bavay's that I never knew was him when I, first started checking it out was, I'm going to show it small and then enlarge it. Oh, where am I at? Oh, there we are. Present. this one, which was a cover for Ravenlaw.
That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and if you look, the vampire's cape is actually bat wings. You see the veins all through it, and
That is
I used to stare at this for hours, and it fades to foggy, and then you come out of that fog with really deep clarity. Again, is really incredible like that. He's got a
Jason Wu. That is dope.
This is a cover he did for Dragon Magazine, which doesn't exist anymore. Was badass back in the day. Yeah, for example, this is one of the ones that he painted that he shows you the steps on his Facebook account. And it's pretty mind-blowing how quick he did this painting. You got to present all over again. And this is oils. He's done a lot of stuff for Aliens, for comic books and stuff. The covers. I think he drew the insides for Dark Horse as well. It's probably a shame to say it, but I'm really more focused on checking out his paintings because they're just badass. But that doesn't mean that he didn't do some awesome imagery for inside too. I just really haven't investigated much. As far as his paintings go. Alright, I'll have to scroll on this one. What is it speaking? This is a cover, obviously. Yeah, I can't say enough for his artwork. I really, really like it. He's done paintings of like the current, or well, they were current when he was painting them, Godzilla stuff, and he's been doing like Clash of the Titans and the Ray Harryhausen stuff as paintings. And it's just pretty freaking awesome. Let's see if I can. Oh, look at that. Godzilla stuff. Like I was looking at looking it up to do a search for some of it, and the Godzilla stuff popped right up. I'm sure Dan won't mind us sharing it and giving him credit. He is really easy to talk to, and he really would give you anything you wanted instruction-wise if you just asked him. So he did a series of tributes to Frazetta too, where he, instead of copying a Frazetta painting, he took some drawings that Frazetta had and finished them out as paintings. But yeah, he's also painted
Spiteful News.
Yeah, it was an ad.
Okay.
If you look, it's an ad.
Okay.
So I'm not going to stop talking about Den Bavay's kick-ass art. The Golden Fleece, the Hydra, Jason. Let's see how old of movies you've watched. This isn't Clash of the Titans, but it is Ray Harryhausen. Oh, that's too small. That small. Oh yeah. I'll do that next. So, what I'm going to do is put a link out to his page in a second. But you recognize that one?
No. Not confidently, though.
Too bad. She
Okay.
actually changes to having a bird foot later. Of course, there's a lot of Sinbad movies, but like I said, it was. So, I'm going to give you a link to anyone who's interested, because I really love Den's work. And if you're interested in checking out his work further, like I said, he's on Facebook. I'm sure he's on X and all that stuff too, but here's his personal website. He's a lot closer in alignment to you and I, Brett, than he is to any other Twitcher.
Okay.
And he's a smart ass, so it's great. He's got a picture of him sitting in a chair behind an easel, naked, with his thumb towards the camera, like gauging something's size. Of course, you can't see his whole nakedness, just enough to know he's naked. And he did this whole series of photoshopping him into other stupid scenes, like behind people and stuff like that. It's funny as hell.
Please never say whole nakedness again.
Why not? What's wrong with saying whole nakedness? Why is that?
What?
I'm trying to open something and it's not doing it. I hate it when it doesn't. Oh well. Dan, if you happen to catch it, I love your work. Yes, I do. I'm a big fan. Of course, you know that too. I actually talked to him about illustrating a cover for a werewolf novel for me. And he does illustrations for Bane Books and other publishers too. And he said, just let them know that you've talked to me and they'll probably hire him. So I was like, that's very cool. I would love to just outright hire him because, you know, it's like hiring one of your heroes.
Now you're my bitch.
I didn't say you're my hero. You're actually sounding like one of those middle schoolers you were talking about that don't curse.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy. Jay, you still around? You catch that? Link to his website so you can check out more stuff. He actually did a painting of Keith Parkinson too, for Keith Parkinson's son. I just think that's really cool.
Jay says he'll check it out.
Yeah, and I can't imagine you'd regret it. Some cool stuff.
He comes back next time. What did I see? There's the bleach for my eyes.
Nope, Dan doesn't paint stuff like that. Not full nakedness. He did this whole thing where it's like, Where's Waldo, where there's a whole bunch of, I think it's like a medieval illustration of a Japanese castle being invaded or whatever, but there was like 5 different groups of dudes like this big, and he inserted his image into it, and so you have to spend like an hour hunting it for that, just for that. That's what you get to see.
Lovely.
Yeah, he's got a great sense of humor. Greater than mine, even. But that ain't hard to do. Because sometimes humor just doesn't work for me like it works for other people.
Okay.
Well, let's be honest, really, because I can watch something that's a comedian and people are like, oh, this is so funny. And I'll be like, that's funny? Okay, if you say so. I don't see the humor in it, but I've found that most comedians these days
Jason,
just go on political diatribes for people's applause, but they don't really say anything funny.
so
They're just as insulting as the people they're bitching about being insulting.
Jay said that Sinbad stuff, that, oh my God, that it's cool.
Yeah, like all of it is. Like all of it is. You just have to take the time to look at it. But he's well worth taking the time to look at, and like I said, he's very approachable. So like if you want to ask him what his tricks are or whatever, or follow him on Facebook and you can see as he's painting, he'll show you the stages. Like he posts when he does his original under sketch, and then he posts what he does and what he does for an under painting or a tonal painting, or just to tone the canvas. You know, sometimes he'll do any of that. Sometimes he'll do a more extensive, and sometimes he'll do less extensive, but he'll build. He did, the Terminator. I gotta find it because it was so cool. When the first time you see a Terminator skull.
Yeah.
And I painted it custom. Why is that not open up?
I don't know, man. You just went silent.
I went silent.
Yeah.
So you just heard me right there?
Yeah, you're fine. You just stop talking.
Yeah, I did stop talking for a second because I'm trying to hunt down this one specific picture. But I was very specific in the wording in the search, and it's still not showing me. So, have you seen like all these? I guess it's like an ad on Facebook or whatever that these two major stars are joining together to make a non-woke movie theater or non-woke movie company. I've seen it with like 10 different non-woke stars, and some of them are woke.
Okay.
I was wondering if you had seen them and investigated them, because I'm like, no, I'm not going there.
I think I've seen the ad. I just ignored it. I mean,
Yeah, you did what I did. You looked at it and you were like, yeah, whatever.
yeah, like, sure. Uh-huh. Keep going.
Yeah, like, I ain't buying that shit. That's the way to get yourself in trouble, right?
Wow, that automatically starts off with a bias. I mean, it's all right, whatever, man. I mean, just if that's just the identity politics. I mean, At best, it's still identity politics. It's just, yeah.
Well, yeah. It even worse. It's using somebody else
Yeah.
and assuming that you know what they promote or what they don't promote. I mean, some of it's obvious. Stallone has come out and said that it's ridiculous and nobody's going to tell him how to run his cruise and whatever because he doesn't think that the agenda is a worthy cause. His character has a quote about it that was written into the Tulsa, hell is it? Tulsa something. It's a new character.
What about just called Tulsa?
It's not. It's
Tulsa.
Tulsa King. Tulsa King. Because it's about
A mobster that gets sent out to Tulsa.
a mobster that has to go to Tulsa to have his.
Yeah.
So for you, Brett,
Thanks. Thanks.
so he's got a whole file for it on Facebook where he insinuated himself into all these pictures. He's like behind the two main characters in Titanic while they're kissing on the bow. He's in the Norman Rockwell painting where he's looking at himself in painting, but he's looking at Den and painting Den.
Yeah.
So I said, I mean, he takes the time to do this shit just because he's got a great sense of humor. Some of them, it's like easy to find. Some of them not so easy to find, but it's just I don't know, just a great release of tension. He also has painted a couple of tribute paintings of Trump just to piss off the other artists that he's hanging around. Because, the art community is big time left usually, so. All right, two more and then I'll cut that out. Anyone that wants to can look him up on Facebook and check out his section. Think he likes Bob Ross?
He really likes Bob Ross. I don't think that'd make for a very good picture.
some of the stuff he's done this with, like, it just, I don't know, just cracks me up, and I like to be cracked up once in a while, I guess, because it's so hard to do or so easy. I guess I laugh at the simple things. I lied. One more. This is for you. Yeah, and with that, I think we're pretty much done for the night. I was actually planning on just to end it at 11. Well, we could take the last 10 minutes to look through some silly shit if you want.
No.
Oh, he's got himself on The View like that.
Oh, goodness. Anyway.
Behind them kissing on ghosts. Funny, some of these I haven't seen either. Got himself behind Terminator in the shadows, so it's just a silhouette of him. But yeah, he was doing that for probably about 2 weeks. He was just doing a bunch of Photoshop pictures like that. So, I guess, looking at him, do you think there's any changes to be made? Does he look too much like a wrestler? Do we need to change something? Like,
Well, I think he's going to need a weapon.
this could be a suit. It doesn't have to be their flesh.
Oh, okay. Still.
I didn't draw a nipple, but you know, veins. That's a question for me. It depends, I guess, on how thick the shirt is. But usually, if I'm expected to believe that it's bulletproof in any way, I don't think you're going to see somebody's veins through it. Like you might see how the shape of the muscles, which is why I did Shepard the way I did him, because he doesn't have any veins showing, but you can see the muscle tone. That's why I can forgive a lot of the movie suits too, because sometimes they look fake, but if you think about it, if you were gonna fight criminals and you were wearing a suit, it would be pretty much armored, because you wouldn't want to get shot, and anyone that's going to be out fighting criminals has got to know that criminals are going to have guns. And these ain't the 50s. They're not going to be snapping with their knives, and not going to be doing the Rumble musicals and shit like that. But that, and the fact is, like, Batman's suit originally was supposed to be a scare tactic, because bats made him afraid. So, approaching criminals in the night with pointy ears and a cape that looked like bat wings when it flopped out or whatever. So I can accept the suits that look like they have built-in muscles, for the reason of making them look like they're scarier individuals, because they look like they have huge muscles. So, or maybe even those muscles are armor plates, But veins, I probably would have to cut the veins out if I was gonna draw him with a specific type of armored whatever on. I kind of like the idea of him wearing suits, because if you're wearing something that is built for breathing in shady situations, then you probably wouldn't want to have bare skin in those shady situations. So, I know we can talk about it more later on if you want to, but I'm basically asking if you think anything needs to be changed. Like these can be like you were talking about antenna, like on a limousine, how you have a
Right.
small antenna on a limousine.
Yeah.
So that's what I would probably write them as if I was writing them, because they would have to serve a purpose. And another thing that I thought of that we haven't really talked about is, have you ever watched the documentary Val?
No.
It's about Val Kilmer,
Oh, yeah.
and he was talking about like he can't talk now because he had a tracheotomy.
Right.
So his kid's reading the script for him.
Oh.
But he was talking about when he did Batman, he had always wanted to do that kind of role, but when he did Batman, one of the things he hated about it was that he couldn't hear. It felt like he was really isolated. It was, hard to turn his neck. It was, hard to see past a certain, peripheral point, and he couldn't hear. And like in Daredevil in the TV show, what they were doing was they were making pretty much a cloth area where his ears were, so the helmet was a truncated helmet. But what I thought was, why don't you have like a modified hearing, like it's like a built-in speaker? You know what I mean? Not like earbuds or something like that, but a speaker built into the helmet that runs on a whisper frequency or something like that. Or in their cases, if he's a member of Shepard's group.
Shadow Faction?
Well, I thought that was the ruling group and not the actual
Okay.
working group. So I'm talking about the working group or the operatives.
Okay.
So if he was an operative, maybe he would have something built in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Shepard we're talking about, he has kind of an AI that's a go-between that communicates and
Right.
gets him in trouble or is intended to get him in trouble. And we're going to make this such an interesting fucking character because he's going to have the duality between him and the AI and the duality of himself and what he's learning. And we're probably going to have to write something huge.
Oh.
Because I can't see creating a character as in depth as we're talking about, having an AI that either gets him in trouble or he argues with or whatever, and then having his own doubts and issues, that it's not going to be an interesting enough character just on that alone, not to mention what he's doing or what he learns through the process of what he's doing,
Yeah.
that he's going to have an entire story, like his story, not just this one tale in his life. Kind of like Cornwell's Uhtred stories, where Uhtred has one major arc, and if you read them all through, there is an arc, there is a beginning, and a goal that he's set for himself in the beginning that he has to either achieve or fail by the end. But there's all these singular adventures or singular incidents that each story is based on. So it's the creation really of England through Uhtred's eyes in different chunks, and the different chunks are separate stories, so they're beginning and ends, but the main story is his story. So I think that's the way this is probably going to be if we're going to create such a rich character. And I have nothing against creating a rich character, but I'm going to probably have something against letting him go. So, you know, unless he has to die at some point in the story, then I can't imagine that I'll let him go completely without finishing his story.
You made me.
I want to go back through that script I sent. There's a few more changes I want to make. I said all that. Well, there's some of
I'm
them.
just commenting on stuff we've already talked about. Like I don't think necessarily that I said anything that has to change anything in this story, but
No, there's a slightly better way I think I can introduce our protagonist. Maybe. Or at least. You know what? I don't think any of the artwork will matter.
that's good. I don't have but one piece.
No, I'm
All
saying
the rest are still in concept form.
the panels that I kind of thought of visually, I think well, it's the captions that I need to look at. I think it's not set in the first image.
Did you just walk under me and fart?
What?
I asked the cat if he just walked under me and farted.
Oh.
Nasty ass.
Anyway, Rich, it's after midnight, man. I gotta go.
Yep. All right, everyone that watched, thanks for watching. Everyone that hung out, thanks for hanging out. If you would hit like on the video, that'd be great because it helps the channel grow. If you are just watching first time and like or subscribe, or depending on where you are, follow, helps the channel grow and lets us know that you like the content. Comments let us know if you like the content too. So anyway, thank you for watching. Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace.